Hope you're doing well today. It is June 6th. Our reading today comes from the book of Ecclesiastes. In Ecclesiastes, one of the things that the book is most well known for is the idea of vanity, there in verse 1. And you have vanity of vanities, all is vanity, of course. And Solomon is going through, and he's talking about all the things that he pursued. Even here in chapter 2, he says, I made my works great. He says, I searched in my heart how to gratify my flesh with wine while guiding my heart with wisdom. You might notice that business right there, because later on he touches on that again. Let's see. Verse 9 is what I was thinking of. Also my wisdom remained with me. He talks about all the things that he had done. And certainly as he speaks about vanity, and he talks about how, if you work hard and you build something, but then the next generation, maybe they're not as wise as you are, and it's vanity. Or he talks about if you labor and build something, but you have no one to share it with, you're all alone, it's vanity. And so he goes through and he talks obviously a lot about vanity. But what's interesting is when you read through Ecclesiastes, there's a certain element that keeps coming up on a positive note. Look back at it and look in verse 24. Verse 24, he says, nothing is better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. Chapter 3, verse 12. I know that nothing is better for them than to rejoice and to do good in their lives, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God. Verse 22. So I perceive that nothing is better than that a man should rejoice in his own works, for that is his heritage. For who can bring him to see what will happen after him? That word heritage there, it's the word for portion. Chapter 5, at verse 12. The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep. Verse 18. Here is what I have seen. It is good and fitting for one to eat and drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor in which he toils under the sun all the days of his life, which God gives him, for it is his heritage or portion. And so you have that recurring theme throughout the book, and I think what Solomon is talking about is godliness with contentment. And it reminds me a little bit of the passage in Galatians. Let me flip over there quickly so I don't misquote it. Pardon me, just 1 second. But towards the latter part of Galatians, I think it's Galatians chapter 6, where it talks about, let each one examine his own work, and then he will have rejoicing in himself alone and not in another. And there may be a more spiritual application to it. But I think what Solomon's talking about is contentment. And that, in the same book you have don't overly work to be rich, because you're not content. But you should enjoy the fruit of your labors, and it is a gift of God. And so he's saying that in the midst of all of this vanity, okay, and we know how Ecclesiastes ends, again, fear God and keep his commandments. But a part of fearing God and keeping his commandments is that each one should aspire to live a peaceable life and work with their own hands what is fitting, to see to their own needs and to care for others. And it's a simple existence. And in the midst of all of these vanities, Solomon says, okay, this is good. Work, be content. Godliness with contentment is great gain. So I just wanted to touch on those verses. Appreciate you following along. Hope you have a good day. Hope you join us for our next look into God's Word. Pardon me.